WPGL and HD1 Baton Rouge. Eagle 98.1.
Eagle 98.1 Game Day is on the air.
Presented by Super Chevy, your local Super Chevy dealers.
It's time to talk LSU football on the flagship home of the Tigers. Call 225-499-9898. It's Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Now, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios, here's Charles Hannegriff and Richard Dixon.
A war of wills in Tiger Stadium as LSU outlasts Ole Miss, leading only once, the only time that it mattered. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Eagle 98.1 Game Day. I'm Charles Hannegriff, along with former LSU Tiger Richard Dixon. This game, you exhausted?
Yeah, I'm done.
You're not alone. There was a lot of that in a game that just seemed to go on and test the will of everybody that was involved in it. It felt like LSU was swimming upstream all night. A boxer whose legs were wobbly, but who never quite got knocked out. From the very beginning, it felt like Ole Miss had the upper hand, even though they didn't actually take the lead until the first play of the second quarter. But a drop deep ball that could have given the Rebels an early lead foreshadowed the missed opportunities that would plague Ole Miss all night. A short missed field goal at the end of an 11-play drive, and a turnover on downs on a drive that started at the LSU 13 following a Garrett Nussmeier interception left the feeling that LSU was sort of hanging on. But hang on they did. After falling behind 10-0, Nussmeier led the Tigers on a 6-play, 75-yard drive that resulted in a touchdown pass to Trey Green that cut the Rebel advantage to 3 points. It was one of several instances in the game, Richard, where Ole Miss could have taken control of the game. They get a 3-and-out there. They get the football back. They go on a drive. Even if they don't score, they kind of feel like they're starting to take control of the game. It was one of several instances where I thought LSU counterpunched when they had to.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first 3 quarters of the game, I feel like Ole Miss was in control, but that the defense kept making plays when we needed to. It was it's like opposite night for us because the defense made the plays when the offense couldn't, but they kept getting them off the field, limiting scoring plays, holding to a field goal. It was one of the games where the defense kept us in the whole time.
Ole Miss has had problems converting on third downs in SEC plays, but on the next drive, they converted 3 times to push the lead back to 10. LSU got a field goal to make it 17-10 with 34 seconds remaining in the second quarter, and that looked like it would be the halftime score. But Ole Miss fumbled on their first play of the next drive, and even though LSU didn't gain a yard, a 45-yard field goal made it 17-13. And I thought, Rich, that might give LSU a little bit of momentum heading into the second half to get that late field goal, which was basically it was a nice play on the strip by LSU, but it was kind of a gift.
No, it was a gift, and it's one of those plays where it keeps us in the game. You know, you're going into halftime with a one-score, one-possession lead. It's something that you know that if you come out there in the second half, you can hold them and then get right back in the game. By making that stop and getting the field goal, it kept you within one possession of where you still felt like it was a game.
A long drive to start the second half for Ole Miss was stopped by penalties. That would be another common theme on the night. The Rebels would have 12 penalties for 110 yards. LSU countered with a 54-yard drive, but that ended in a missed field goal. Then the teams would trade long field goal drives and back-to-back interceptions as the fourth quarter started. LSU hanging around within 4, though it felt like they were being outplayed. With 6 minutes and change to go, Ole Miss started a drive at their own 27 that reached the LSU 24, but LSU stopped them there, holding the Rebels to a field goal with 3:14 left. And a score there that kept with LSU within 7. The 3rd down and 9 on that drive, Richard, I thought was a big, big play in the ball game. They gained 4. I think if they gain 6, Kiffin probably goes for it there. They can put the game away there. They go up 2 scores with 3:14 to go, and it's over. But because LSU held it to a 5-yard gain, because it was a 4-yard gain, it resulted in a 4th down and 5. Kiffin chose to kick the field goal there, which is what I would have done, and put them up a touchdown. But just a touchdown. Again, LSU, it seemed like, was dodging that knockout punch all night, and that was another instance where they just held them just enough. I swear to you, another 2 yards, and Kiffin's going for it. I don't know if he makes it or not, but I think he's going for it if they make 2 more yards there.
100%. I mean, this is one of those games we're talking about where you finally get to see the result of the changes we made on the defensive staff. These guys are coming. We've been talking about it all year long. They're getting better, and this is one of those games is you can throw the stats out because, they put up 400-something yards offense, still threw for 280, rushed for over 4 yards a carry. But in every situation where the defense needed to make a stop, needed to make a play, they were there. They weren't getting just beat. They made the plays to keep us in the game.
LSU started their last drive of regulation needing to go 75 yards to tie it. Garrett Nussmeier, who'd been knocked around and made mistakes in this game, saved the clutch plays for when his team had to have them. A 4th down and 6 completion to Mason Taylor gained 14 yards. A 3rd and 10 pass to Taylor for 19 moved the ball into Ole Miss territory at the Rebel 38. Richard, up to that point, Taylor had 2 catches in the game for 0 yards. We thought he might be a bigger part of this game plan, this control passing game to keep the ball out of Ole Miss's hands. He really was not. They had taken him out of the game to that point.
No, I mean, this was a tough night for Nuss. I mean, the way they ran the defense, they were playing cover 2 man. Played really tight coverage. They were getting good push up the middle. Nussmeier was seemingly they were making him throw deep all night long, and he wasn't very successful with it. But later in the game, Mason Taylor was able to beat his guy man on man and get open and make the big plays.
27 seconds to go, and LSU was down to 4th and 5, what seemed like about the 10th chance that Ole Miss had to put this game away. But Nussmeier threw a strike to Aaron Anderson for the touchdown. I thought it was his best throw of the night, and Brian Kelly had a decision to make at that point. Would he pull a redo of Alabama in 22 and go for the win? This time, he chooses to play for overtime. Both of these teams were exhausted. I wouldn't have been surprised at all if he had gone for it and given LSU a chance to win it right there because, again, to that point, they had not led. And it seemed like, again, they were playing from behind the whole time. Maybe he goes for it here. He explained later on, we'll have the clip for you, why he decided to go for 1 instead of 2. What did you think of the call? Did you think he was going to go for the win there?
No, in my opinion, this is the first time in the Brian Kelly era that he had more confidence in the defense than the offense. He wanted the defense to go out there and make a stop. They've been playing really good defense. He knew if they could hold him to a field goal, it would give him a shot. This is where he relied on the defense. This is a new defensive staff. This is the guy they went and spent all the money on to put the staff together. They were the ones that kept us in this game, and he left the game up to the defense.
Ole Miss went backwards in the overtime, forcing Caden Davis to try a 57-yard field goal, which he hit. And then
from the logo.
LSU got the ball, and shades of Rohan Davey to Robert Royal against Tennessee in overtime in 2000. Nussmeier and LSU went to the end zone on the first play the same way Davey went to Royal to beat Tennessee. He hits Kyron Lacey for the touchdown in the front right corner of the end zone to end it. Take me through the touchdown pass.
Well, I mean, we ran a motion on it. They were playing cover 2 man. The guys were not – they were playing match man. They weren't going to run with him. They had their best DB on him all night long. We ran him in a motion, put him against a weaker defensive back. They tried to bracket him with the safety, but, I mean, he made a good throw, got the guy over the top, and was able to throw it on the back shoulder and make a play.
LSU won this game despite trailing all night. Inability to establish a running game. They turned the ball over twice. They allowed 11 third-down conversions. 2 fourth-down conversions. They nearly got Whit Weeks ejected in this game, which would have been terrible, but it didn't happen.
If that happened, I would not be here tonight because I would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you would.
Because that was similar to the Devin White against Mississippi State before
first
the
play
Alabama
I thought
game.
Of. First play
that's what I thought of. It's a freaking football play. I'm sitting with an SEC referee while I'm watching that. I'm like, dude, I will fight you right now if your buddies call this.
Thankfully, they didn't. They overcame Lacey coming down with his hands clutching his knee. And I don't know what you thought at that point, but I feared the worst. He came down a little bit straight-legged. He's holding his knee. You can see he's in obvious pain. And for just a brief moment there, I'm wondering how many receivers LSU's got left.
We're out.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, look, thank God he was healthy going forward. I mean, I looked at it. He hyperextended his knee, no doubt. You watch his straight leg hit the ground, it bounced back. And, there's 2 things that can happen. You tear something or it flexes, bounces back in. Luckily, we got the better result of it, but he was able to hop in 2 plays later.
Because without Weeks and Lacey, they don't win this game. If they lose those 2 at those points, the point of the penalty, the near ejection, and the point where Lacey got hurt, if those 2 guys can't continue from that point, LSU doesn't
effect.
win.
I mean, if Weeks goes out, we don't get the forced fumble before half to kick the field goal. If Lacey goes out, we don't get the big plays in the second half. I mean, those 2 guys were so critical to winning this game. It was so close to having them being out early.
it was just an overall feeling for the entire night that it wasn't going to be LSU's time, and they wouldn't let it happen. As frustrating as a lot of this night was, and as exhausting as the whole thing was, I got to give LSU a tremendous amount of credit. They took it was like a Rocky Balboa-like performance. They took every punch, and they were still standing. They just wouldn't go down. There was any number of times. Ole Miss will kick themselves from now until the day the season ends, and probably a long time after that, because they had every opportunity to put LSU away. I'll use one more boxing analogy. LSU spent 3.5 quarters, almost 4 quarters on the ropes, but they would not go down.
No.
And you got to give them credit for that. You got to give them credit for staying in this thing and making the plays when they absolutely, positively had to.
You give credit to this team, but we got a 3-year example of this, and I'm gonna give a lot of credit to whoever you like. Brian Kelly, you don't. His teams fight. I mean, every single situation we go watch these games, they've fought from behind. These guys don't quit. I don't care what your opinion is on him. The locker room believes in him. They fight for him, and they never quit on a play.
Make no mistake, there is frustration there that this game played out for most of the night the way that it did. There is frustration that maybe they are not as far along as you would like them to be in year 3 of Brian Kelly. There's frustrations that Ole Miss has from 1 to 85, probably a better roster. And all of those are legit. And all of those things are things that we'll cover, but you have to. Absolutely. This performance tonight, this resiliency tonight demands your respect. I mean, if you don't think anything of the game plan or the play calls or anything else, you got to give those kids credit for having heart.
No doubt.
Because there were any number of times it could have gone the other way.
80% of the fans, I guarantee you, did not predict a win tonight. They gave up at some point in this game, but his team doesn't. I mean, say what you will. What he does for that team, whatever he's got going on in the locker room, the chemistry he's got, the belief he's got in those guys, these guys don't quit. And that's the thing that I'm probably most proud of about this team. It is not the most talented team we've had. They have their issues, but nobody quits. These guys fight from freaking first quarter to fourth quarter. They're going to put everything they got into it, and they're going to play till the whistle.
Multiple things can be true at the same time. Brian Kelly following tonight's win by LSU, 29-26 in overtime.
Yeah, I don't understand how we lost.
I'm sorry. Give me Brian Kelly first.
And then the two teams, played up to that and lived up to it. It was, certainly many people were expecting maybe a similar shootout to last year. I didn't think that would be the case. I thought this would be much more about, opportunities that were, going to have to come by and be taken advantage of. We didn't early on. Obviously, we turned touchdowns into field goals or didn't get touchdowns and led to field goals. But can't say enough about the defensive effort tonight.
If you think that this game was improbable, you got to hear what Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, had to say after this game, because if you were in disbelief that LSU was able to hang around long enough to pull this thing out, this was Jackson Dart following tonight's game. We asked him, what happened?
Yeah, I don't understand how we lost. I think just that first half, didn't put points on it. Had a whole bunch of momentum. I'm still trying to think through it.
I know it's loud in there.
Another boxing analogy, he's the one that sounds punch drunk at that point.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, goodness. He did. Look, I'm still replaying in my head that Ole Miss played the better game. LSU made the bigger plays.
They made them when they absolutely had to, but they made without any exception. They made every play from behind.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to draw on a game you played in in 2007, where I didn't feel like LSU was outplayed the way, for most of the game, the way they were tonight, but the ending was just as stunning, and that was 2007 when you beat Auburn, and Flynn went to Bird with a second to go on the clock, and the entire Auburn sideline looked like Jackson Dart just sounded, which was, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we still talk about that. I talked about Matt not too long ago. Like, I thought I was supposed to get the ball on that play and we were going to kick a field goal. It was one of those games where, it's just an SEC game in October, November, middle of the season. Everybody's so damn good. There's so much talent on every roster. There's so many things that keep you from 2 losses, 5 wins, 1 loss. It's one of those games where you keep battling, but we get down there in the last couple minutes and we make the big play at the end to win the game. It's very similar to what you're talking about tonight.
The Ole Miss side will wake up many, many days and go, how the hell did we lose that game?
Every Ole Miss fan I know. I'm like, what happened tonight?
You're going to have a ball with this.
I'm going to get excited.
499-9898 is the number to call on the LaBerge hotline. We'd like to hear from you. It was one we won't soon forget. LSU 29, Ole Miss 26 in overtime. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Eagle 98.1 Game Day continues. Tigers win at 29-26 in overtime. The LaBerge hotline is open. 499-9898 is the number. Start with Ryan in Central Arkansas. Ryan, welcome into the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just wanted to give a shout-out first to Ole Miss fans. We had to live with that same way last year. Like, man, we're going to look back at that game and say, man, what if, And so I'm glad they get to stick and deal with that for a while. Secondly, I don't know if we're going to have to face another defensive line, maybe as talented as the one we just faced. So maybe that's a plus. I don't know if that affects our running game as much going here forward. But I wanted to leave this question with y'all and, get y'all's thoughts on it. It seems like the biggest problem we have with the running game right now is the fact that, they're trying to push Garrett to be that guy, and he's just not. There were, a lot of times tonight, there was a play where he held the ball forever and gave it to Caleb Jackson when it was clearly what they were trying to do was get him to take off with it. And there was maybe 15 to 20 yards there. If you look at what they're doing in recruiting, they want a dual threat guy. It stretches the field out. It pushes defense to work sideline to sideline. It opens the passing game. It opens the running lanes up more for even the running back. And it's very limited right now. And that's my thoughts, and I just wanted to leave with y'all. Go Tigers.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You don't need a dual threat guy. You just need a guy that makes a freaking play. And I don't know if it's something coached out of him. I was talking to you about this the second I walked into the studio before the game. There was, 5 to 7 plays when you're playing cover 2 man, everybody bails out. There's nobody in the middle. You can look at the end zone view, and we're going to pull a few of them up for the show on Monday we do on YouTube. He's got to take off running. There's 20 yards that you can bear crawl and make a first down. He's trying to make every play with his arm. And look, these receivers are not getting enough separation right now. Every throw is so hard. He has to make the perfect throw in a perfect spot. He's got to use his legs more, and he's just got to, take what's given to him.
Greg McElroy made that comment on the broadcast a bunch of times, and he wasn't exactly a running quarterback. He said, I will take – I'm going to take
this. You
this.
can be a five flat 40 guy. It doesn't matter. When everybody spreads out, the linebackers are chasing to the sideline. You just got to go make a play. It's open yardage, and I get us. He's got so much confidence in his arm. He's looking downfield, and we've always complained with running quarterbacks, keep your eyes downfield. Well, he's got to actually take a little bit more effort and to just take what's given to him in the run game.
The fourth down to Caleb Jackson, I thought was a rough call, and we're going to go back and look at that, like you said, on the podcast on Monday. But he's not a threat to keep the ball there.
No,
he's not going to.
It's a bad design all in. This play was made popular with Urban Meyer in Florida with Aaron Hernandez. When the tight end came across back in motion, you had the pitch pass and tuck run. It was Thomas coming back across the middle. The DN was sitting there covering Thomas and Nussmeier. So, look, I get what you're saying that, Caleb had nowhere to go. Well, the guy sat there. You had one guy covering two. It was just a bad design.
And I'm going to disagree with when he said LSU won't see another defensive line as good as Ole Miss.
There's better lines.
That's a very good defensive front. Nolan's a pro. but that Alabama front is good. That Oklahoma front, I know they got beat today, but they got beat by a really good Texas team. That's a pretty good defensive front. Hell, I think
South Carolina was better than Ole Miss on the front, in my opinion.
South Carolina was definitely better on the edge. I thought Ole Miss might have been a little bit better on the interior. But
we're talking about Nolan.
Nolan
is the best defensive tackle we faced. And he's really good up front. He's a game wrecker. And the weak part of our offensive line is the center and guards. I mean, DJ Chester is a young guy. He's the newest guy to this the offensive line. He's getting blown up a lot. We talked about it on Friday. He's such a tall guy. They get underneath him. They move him. He's always moving backwards. He's never the guy moving forward.
They got to go to Arkansas, who is coming off of a bye and a big win against Tennessee.
Former LSU guy Landon Jackson on that team is a game wrecker.
That's another pro.
Yeah.
A&M, that's a pretty good defensive front there as well. Vanderbilt won again tonight. Florida played Tennessee all they wanted. That came down. They got that. If you're waiting on
the equality in the SEC,
you're waiting on a bad defensive line. You're gonna be waiting a hot minute. I wish what he was said was true, but it's not. Yeah, it's not. Jules is in New Mexico. Jules, welcome into the show.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Better now.
Hey, a couple things. Why isn't Trades Green on the field 90% of the time? And is it just me, or did Nuss throw off his back foot tonight a whole lot of times we didn't have to? Go Tigers, MAGA.
All right, thank you for the call. I'm going to let you take the Trades Green question since you're a tight end, but I know what you're going to say.
I'm not pulling Mason Taylor out of the game. I mean, Mason Taylor is the best tight end in the country, in my opinion. He's got everything that the NFL scouts are looking for. He makes the big plays. Look, Trades is going to be a great weapon. He's a guy that can change the game, but there's still a lot of learning to do with him. When you put him into the game, it's a backside run or a pass play. Mason Taylor is a complete tight end. He can play 1 through 3 downs, short yardage, long distance. He can play split out. Yeah, Trades is just it's a tricky spot to get him in there if you're not playing a lot of multiple tight end sets.
See, I was just going to say he doesn't block. I mean,
I'll give you the full answer.
Right. That's why I got you here. But at this stage of his development, if they would have run
his
12,
touchdown tonight was a slot receiver touchdown. It was not a tight end play. He played slot receiver.
If they're running 12 personnel, it's going to be tough to have him as an inline blocker because that part of his game has not developed yet.
He's 6'7", 235.
He's 6 games into his college career. Later, but not
He
now.
didn't block in high school either. He played wide receiver in high school. People got to remember that. He's got a lot to learn on the tight end side.
There are things that he can do that normal human beings can't do, from an athleticism standpoint and just sheer size. But right now, he is not what
he's learning football right now.
Yeah,
he's played basketball on a football field his whole high school career. Right now, he's still learning football.
499-9898 is the number on the LaBerge hotline. Jimmy is in Gretna. Jimmy, welcome into the show.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Look, we're driving home back to New Orleans area. Just give you a quick rundown here. My wife's a LSU alum. We haven't been to a game in a long time. Got babysitter set up. I'm a Southern Miss grad. We're irrelevant. But because of the Ole Miss narrative, I was like, you know what? Let's go check it out. Ole Miss is very polished. I kind of had them as a college playoff. I thought they had all the makings of a college playoff team. Now they got 2 losses in the hole, and it's not even Halloween. It's kind of funny because I'm not a big Ole Miss fan. I'll say this about Nussmeier. With all the injuries to Emery and on the defense, and the resilience with this team has been impressive. It was. I think Nussmeier has a lot of upside. I'm not saying y'all didn't say anything opposite of that, but my question to you guys is this: Brian Kelly, I know he gets some heat. They always say he doesn't win the big game, but he does really, really well with quarterbacks. Just like Coach O brought Burrow here. I mean, maybe Coach O wasn't the greatest X's and O's guy, but he had the wherewithal to bring Burrow here, give him the keys to the car. Same thing with Brian Kelly, with Jaden Daniels, and now Nussmeier, the son of a former NFL player, former Saint, Doug. You could tell this guy's the son of a coach, and he's got a really good arm and very accurate. And like you said, we got a lot of backup wide receivers in there. who aren't separating, and he's dipping it in there in some tight spots. Now, not everything was perfect. My question to you is this: will Nussmeier be back next year? Obviously, I don't think he's going to transfer, but is this a situation where you think he'll go into the NFL draft, or do you think he's setting up for a Jaden Daniels-like senior year?
They got him projected in the first round right now.
Yeah.
You look, Nussmeier, his greatest ability is to flush the last play. And that's what he gets from his dad. He gets from his NFL parents' pedigree. He understands that you cannot dwell on the last play to make the next play successful. He flushes things. Look, tonight was not a great night for him. He completed 42% of his passes, threw 2 terrible interceptions. But when he needed to make a play, he made the play. He never let a bad play affect his next play.
I thought tonight for a lot of the game he reverted back to some bad habits. Yeah. I agree with him on the upside. What I'm most interested in your opinion on is with the coverage that they were playing and the fact that they had backed off a little bit. There were some things in the run game that they were inviting that LSU just couldn't take advantage of. And I thought Nussmeier had to kind of pay the price for that a little bit because he didn't have much of a running game to work with tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was really tough. They were playing, like I said, cover 2 man. They were going to man up. They thought their guys were better than our guys. And look, honestly, they covered us. We didn't get open. Every throw that Nussmeier had to make, it had to be a perfect throw. There wasn't a lot of separation. He had to sling it downfield. I think he had over 15 passes over 20 yards that he just had to drop back and dump it. But this is a game where we'll go back to Walter Nolan. Nolan wrecked the middle of the field. They could not get any push on the inside. He disrupted the pulling guards. We could not get a run game going. And I think that was because, our guard and centers got their butts whipped tonight.
If you asked me to make a call right now, I would say that it's more likely that he goes pro than he comes back. But I'm not 100% sold in either direction. This season is 6 games deep. Okay?
Well, let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
You're losing 4 offensive linemen. Do you want to come back as a senior and rebuild with 4 new starters? This is where he goes. This is the best opportunity he has.
Okay, fair enough. But let me tell you what scouts are going to do, okay? They're going to take that South Alabama film, and they're going to throw it away. They're going to take that Nichols film, they're going to throw it away. They're probably going to take the UCLA film and not pay a whole lot of attention to it. They're going to pay attention to this film. They're going to pay attention to the USC film. They're going to pay attention to the South Carolina film, and the results there are mixed. There's been plenty good, but there's been a lot that you go, uh-oh. And they're going to take the last 6 films against SEC competition, and they're going to look at those really, really closely. So right now, if I'm an NFL guy looking at Nussmeier, I'm going to say it's incomplete. I think that he's got a long pro future in front of him. But if we're just talking about draft status, okay, I think that's very much up in the air. There's going to be 6 films that are left on this regular season schedule that they're going to scrutinize. Of the first 6 games, I think they're only going to look at half of them.
No, you're right. They're not going to look at the Nichols film.
No, they don't care about that
They're
stuff.
going to look at the most competitive film. But the things he does great, he does in all 6 games.
Yeah.
The things he does bad, I don't see you taking that out of him. That's a mentality that every quarterback lives with, whether good or bad. I don't see you pulling that tight window throw that he shouldn't make out of him. I just don't see where you pull that out.
To his credit, one of the things that is a liability at the college level, which is his inability to, or his reluctance to run on a zone read or even when things open up, will not be as big of a hindrance for him in the NFL. They don't want you running very much up there. And he can buy himself time. He actually does that pretty well. They don't want you running down the field in the NFL. They're trying they take a guy like Jaden Daniels.
That was a knock on Jaden Daniels. He doesn't get down.
This is fantastic, but quit getting hit, okay? And Daniels is a freak of nature when it comes to running. So that reluctance to run is actually going to benefit him at the next level. There's a lot of film left to tell the story of Nuss in 2024 for the NFL. Patrick is in Baton Rouge. Patrick, welcome to the show.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, Patrick.
Charlie. Hey, man. I got a simple question, but it might be dumb. Are we better on defense without Harold Perkins? Thank you.
We're more defined.
We're more consistent. We're more in place. Look, Harold Perkins has potential to be the best defensive player in college football, but when Harold Perkins has to be put in certain positions, he puts other people out of positions. I think right now it's very consistent with him out of the game because nobody's having to swap roles and play different roles to put him in certain situations. But I mean, like, I'm never going to say that you take a first-round talent out of the game and we're better, but we're definitely more consistent and we're more, everybody's in the same roles. They're not flip-flopping.
It did seem like they struggled as a coaching staff with what to do with him. Through multiple staffs, really. They changed the entire defensive staff. They still couldn't figure out what to do with him. And it was a frustrating deal for people like me, and I think you, that just said, put him on the outside and let him rush the passer and be done with it. And they just simply wouldn't do it.
It's like you take your most explosive player, your most game-wrecking player, and we're only going to play him in third and long. It gets to that point where you see in the NFL, you got pass rush specialty guys, you got third and long guys you're going to get in there to get after the quarterback. That's what he did great. But when you have that player in college and he's considered, he's a first-round draft pick and everybody's looking at the rest of your defense, you want to put him on there for, majority of the game.
I'll tell you where I would love to have him, and that's when Alabama comes to town, because the thing that scares me the most about them, they almost lost today, is Jalen Milroe's ability to beat you with his legs, which is what he did last year. You think Weeks can run with him?
Weeks can run with him. Weeks is the best football player on LSU football.
I'm not going to argue with that.
He is the most instinctive. Go watch the plays tonight where he chases people down from the backside. The dude can freaking move, and I'm so tired of people talking about like he's not that fast. He's slow. The guy. I don't care if you run a 4.8, but you got the mindset of a genius. You run a 4.2. You get there as fast as that guy, and Weeks does that.
I didn't say he was slow.
No,
I'm concerned that he can run with Milroe. Ain't many guys.
Had people tell me that.
I watched Milroe outrun Georgia's secondary. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, but I've watched Weeks know where people are going, and he gets there faster. The dude's so dang good.
Clip this. Clip this. I'm concerned about Milroe's ability to run. I watched him beat LSU with his legs last year. So the one time I really want Perkins is that's when I want him.
I watched Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and nobody was better than Weeks on that Vanderbilt team.
That's actually very hard to argue against. 499-9898 is the number on the LeBear's hotline. We'll take a break. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Eagle 98.1 Game Day continues. 499-9898 is the number to call on the LeBear's hotline. Tigers win it 29-26 in overtime. Trey is in New Iberia. Trey, welcome into the show.
Yes, it's Craig from New Iberia. We headed back from the game. That was a very good game. I enjoyed it. It was 4 hours long, 3 hours and 55 minutes. You stayed mad. And the last 5 minutes of the game just kind of took away all of it. Great game, good resilience from the football team. Really enjoyed the LED light show. It's too bad we got some idiots that kept throwing the LED lights onto the field, and we'll probably never see it again. I'm going to hang up and listen to you guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.
I appreciate it. I saw one of the LSU assistants run out, I don't know if it was just late in the game, might even been in the overtime, to retrieve one of those things to pick it up.
I saw players with him after the game.
Yeah.
I didn't know where that came. Would they give him out at the gate when they were walking in?
Yeah, they gave him out. Yeah, you were in the stadium for
I never made it to the stadium. I went to the tailgate, went to the L Club tailgate. We had some guys. My guy I worked with was in town with his kids. We hung out, got him on the sideline for the pregame. Look, I'm just happy that they got to see a great game. These kids never got to see an LSU football game at night, and what a game they got to see.
Well, if you only this was your first and you went to this one, you should be hooked, right?
He's got a son that's a sophomore playing football in Houston at 6'6", 315.
A sophomore.
And I hope that as he gets bigger and stronger and gets recruited, he remembers this night.
I would think. 6.
His daddy played in the NFL for 7 years, so we got a little genetics there.
We appreciate your assist in recruiting. 499-9898 is the number. Cookie is in Baton Rouge. Cookie, welcome into the show.
Charles?
Yes?
I'm going to give you an option here, and I'm going to lay it out. If you had to give an odd for the remaining schedule we have, Arkansas, middle of the road, SEC team, A&M, playing better than they should, but they have the talent. Alabama seems like they're beatable. Oklahoma seems like they should be had at home. What are the odds we go 10-2 and somehow sneak into the playoffs, not really make any noise in the playoffs, but somehow get into the playoffs?
Well, let me give you a completely unsatisfying answer to your question.
Say what you said 2 weeks ago.
There is not a sure win or a sure loss left on LSU's schedule. I felt like that before tonight, and I still feel that way. Even more so that if you'd asked me when I woke up this morning, what's the toughest game LSU has left on their schedule, I would have still told you Alabama. And you asked me what is the most likely win left on LSU's schedule, I would have still told you Vanderbilt, okay? But the margin has shrunk on both of those since this morning. Now I feel a lot better about LSU's chances to beat Alabama because they're nothing special. Yeah. They're a good team. They're capable in the right moments of being a really good team, like you saw for a half against Georgia. But the aura of invincibility or whatever, they ain't as good as they were. All right.
Vanderbilt's pretty good too.
And Vanderbilt is better. Okay. The win against Alabama was not flukish. They beat Virginia Tech to open the season. Now, Virginia Tech's not great, but they're not bad either. They probably should have beaten Miami. They lost by a field goal against Missouri on the road. They beat Kentucky on the road tonight. You say, well, that's Kentucky. Who cares? I'm sorry. We got this thing on the show we called a field rush fade. After a gigantic win, and they don't get any bigger in Nashville, Tennessee than beating Alabama. It's been 40 years. That the next week there is just a natural letdown, and you couple that with going on the road in the league, and you still win, and you're Vanderbilt, they're not bad, okay? So do I think LSU's going to win the game when they come to Baton Rouge? I do. Do I think it is an absolute certainty? I don't. You got 6 toss-up games. I mean, next week
Arkansas's tough.
You got to come off of that. Okay, LSU rushed the field tonight. It looked, it was full. They just beat a top 10 team. It was, in overtime. How many plays they run tonight?
I know they threw 51 passes and they had 24 rushes.
LSU snapped the ball. Total plays tonight. I'm looking for it. 24. 75 plays on offense and 84 plays on defense. And then you got to go on the road in the conference. This is hard. So I give Vandy credit going on the road and getting a win after you're dealing with the emotions of that game from a week ago. LSU, I thought, was in a very good spot here, catching Ole Miss playing their 7th straight game. We talked about that. Second in a row on the road, and LSU was coming off of a bye week. Well, next week, it's not an exact flip, but Arkansas was off this weekend, and LSU is going to come off of this physical, long, emotional game and have to go on the road.
A&M was off this week, and then we're going to go play the second game at A&M. So when you're talking about the rest of the schedule, we got some tough spots.
It's very, very difficult. 499-9898 is the number to call. Matt is, I'm not really sure where Matt is. Matt, where are you? Yeah, Matt?
Hello.
Hey, Matt.
I'm at BASF.
Oh, at BASF. Okay.
Buy some valves from Sunbelt Supply.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. How about them Tigers? We want Vandy, Yeah, I just want to call and say Swinson has been an animal this year. I'm looking forward to keep watching him play.
Oh no, Swinson's a freak, man. He's making all the plays for us out there. He's pushing back. He's causing havoc. I mean, guys, man, the flip that we've done with Kevin Peoples has made an incredible improvement on these guys. These guys are making big plays. I mean, Swinson's a freak.
Would you say that Kevin Peoples has had the best year of any LSU assistant?
Well, I'd give it a tie between Kevin and Bo. Look, the good thing with Kevin is the guys that he's training are older guys. Bo's doing it with freshmen. So it's his guys are making bigger improvements because they're older, stronger, faster, play more football. but both doing the same thing with guys that are straight out of high school.
I think he's had a hell of a. I agree with you on both of them. There was some unbelievable individual efforts since he brought up Swinson. We've given Major Burns some grief at times about
his
tackling.
Best game as a Tiger tonight.
Thank you.
By far. I mean, he covered well, made big plays in the backfield. He never got beat. I mean, look, I've given more grief to Major Burns than anybody, and tonight he played his butt off. And
even the ball Harris caught in the middle of the end zone on him.
There's nothing else he could have done.
Yeah, I mean,
he was perfectly covered.
He was inside the guy's jersey. Just give Harris credit for making the catch there. Greg Penn was outstanding tonight. Kelly called him. He's our green dot, which, on the helmet, he's the guy to get some lined up. Alexander got the game ball from Kelly tonight. He was outstanding. And all Whit Weeks did was have 18 tackles.
Whit Weeks is the best player on the field.
18 tackles.
10 solos, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Ain't nobody.
Boy, and I was all ready to jump on Sage Ryan, too. After that the bomb that Harris dropped.
I was ready.
I was so ready to, it's like, goodness, the safety play's not getting. He played well. Most of the rest of the night, they weren't perfect. They had their issues, but better.
Yeah,
way better. People giving you grief.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting a text message. It's actually they're giving the guys back here grief.
499-9898 is the number to call. We'll take a break. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Eagle 98.1 Game Day continues. LSU wins at 29-26 in overtime. 499-9898 is the number to call. Tony is in Slidell on the LaBerge hotline. Tony, welcome into the show.
Well, thank you, man. I'm working my way back from the game. This was an exhausting game, to say the least. I go back 60 years watching LSU. The first game I remember at Tiger Stadium was an 11-10 win over Ole Miss. So this probably ranks, I would say, in the top 5 games at Tiger Stadium.
Top 5 game at Tiger Stadium.
It had everything you asked for.
It did. I was texting with Patrick Wright, who has been on the LSU Sports Network forever and does the stats and stuff up there with him, and he was comparing it to the Auburn game in '88, the earthquake game, which was that LSU was, it was a frustrating night for them. Now that game was a lot lower scoring than this one, but at the end, when they had to have it, they put together a 75-yard drive that had multiple fourth down conversions. I think it was Willie Williams that they got on a 4th and 10, just the same way they hit the tight end tonight. Mason Taylor it was a 4th and 6 tonight, but it had some of those characteristics that I was in the stadium that night. It was, everybody talks about that game as one of the iconic games at Tiger Stadium. It was boring as hell for 57 minutes. And the last 3 were like, and your heart's in your throat. So
what about 2006? Because this game reminded me of my freshman year, except for that Ole Miss was not expected to be anywhere close, but we played them close into the game. Dwayne Bowe catches the ball in the back of the end zone on a 4th down to win the game.
I had forgotten about that game. I'll be honest with you.
This is what it reminded me of. I mean, look, we were a way better team in 06. We were a team that probably should have won a national championship. But we were going against an Ole Miss team that wasn't very good. Orgeron was in his first year, second year. They took us down to the wire.
Okay.
We hit him in the back of the end zone in the 4th down in the 4th quarter.
Here's what I remember about that game now. Orgeron was talking with Jamarcus or talking about Jamarcus in the pregame.
Mm-hmm.
And he had recruited him. And he says, "You're as big as our lineman." Because I think it was his first year there, and he was trying to get the program back going. And he's like, my problem is LSU's quarterback is bigger than my lineman. But I didn't remember the details of that game quite like you did. I remember more the highway robbery at Auburn that year.
Yeah.
I remember that very well. 499-9898 is the number to call. The Bears hotline. John is in Destrehan. John, welcome into the show.
Shit, hey, Charles.
Charles, can you hear me, man? I'm driving home from the stadium tonight.
Yeah, go ahead.
Top down on the Jeep.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Weeks tonight, man. He played a great game, and I don't think he gets enough credit because at one point in time in the fourth quarter, he was moving defensive linemen around, fellow linebackers. He was moving them around and getting them in position, and then I think he did move the cornerback or a safety around that one play. And he's got a hell of a job back there, and man, you can't say enough about that guy. He just did a great job tonight. I mean, 18 tackles. That's ridiculous.
I agree.
You don't have to worry about him getting enough credit. Dixon here.
You don't listen to me enough.
Dixon's starting a fan club. He's having jackets made.
Man, my God, he is an amazing. I don't need to do this rant again. He's the best player on our defense.
It's hard to argue with 18 tackles and 2 for loss and a sack.
It's the way he plays the
pass
game.
defense. No,
it's not just like stats. We can go down stats. He plays the game like he's a freaking old man. He knows football. He reacts. He reads. He's just a guy that was put on this earth to play linebacker.
It's an old soul.
Yeah.
Okay. No argument for me at all. Sean is in Baton Rouge. Sean, welcome into the show.
Yeah, Richard, as a Mississippi native, I think you said your dad played at State. Were you recruited by the Mississippi schools, and what made you pick LSU?
Oh, I was heavily recruited by Mississippi State and Ole Miss. For me, I'm a sore loser, and they were terrible when I was coming out of high school. I mean, Ordron just got in there. They won 3 games. Sylvester Croom was at Mississippi State. Look, I wanted nothing more for Mississippi State to be a good football team so I could follow my dad's footsteps and go be a Bulldog. But, I can't lose. I hate losing more than anything. I'm a poor sport. My wife and kids can't be around me when LSU's losing now. I have to be in a program with a chance to win. And, in all honesty, LSU was 2 hours from my house. Mississippi State was 4.5, and they were winning football games.
And the fans in Mississippi were so understanding of your decision that they were just so nice to you on your return visits to those stadiums, right? They just welcomed you with open arms.
They love to call me Coach Trash. Like I remember stretching in the end zone, warming up for Ole Miss games, and the whole student section cheering Dixon's Coach Trash. So yeah.
I wasn't familiar with the term until you told a story on Friday.
Yeah, I won my 4 games against Mississippi State. I hate to say I went 2 for 2 against Ole Miss, but I feel a little bit more vindicated tonight.
499-9898 is the number to call. Stephen is in Crowley, or Stephan is in Crowley. Stephan, welcome into the show. Stephan, nope. Charlie's in Lafayette. Let's try that. Charlie, welcome into the show.
How you doing, Charlie?
Good.
Great game. Look, I hate to correct you about 2006 when Dwayne Bowe caught the touchdown pass to tie it up. Y'all missed the extra point and beat Ole Miss in overtime. I remember.
All right, we'll get into details.
Yeah, I remember when he did, just to remind. But one of the things I'm noticing, basically, I mean, a great win, but the SEC is starting to cannibalize each themselves, and they may not have as many teams in the playoffs this year, but I do like the fact that they've got a deal with the Big Ten that they're pretty much going to eventually break away, and it's going to go to about 40 teams, and some teams will join them, but I think that's where it's going. But man, we're cannibalizing each other in the SEC.
Well, they always have. The thing is, this is the first year we're looking at the 12 team, and if you look at these teams from the Southeastern Conference up at the top, even though everybody's got a loss now except for Texas, but is there a better one-loss team in the country than Georgia? Maybe Ohio State because they got nipped tonight by Oregon by a point, but Georgia is right there. Tennessee is right there. LSU, A&M, Oklahoma lost again today. I'm trying to go through the one-loss teams without who am I forgetting? Those anyway.
Is this the most equality you've seen in the SEC in a long time? I mean, it's hard to not go that way when Vanderbilt beats Ole Miss, Arkansas beats Tennessee.
Yeah.
It just seems like everybody's so close.
I would say it's been a long time, because if you look at the SEC championship game, and they did this when Alabama played Georgia a couple of weeks ago, they put the graphic up, and you just take it for granted. It's like, man, these two have been monopolizing the SEC championship game for a decade.
Yeah.
LSU's win in 2019 is the outlier. If you want an SEC champion besides Alabama or Georgia, other than that 19 year, you got to go back 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could, if you told me right now, can Texas win the SEC? Yes. Can Georgia win the SEC? Yes. Can Tennessee win the SEC? They've been shaky the last couple of weeks, but if everything broke right for them, maybe. Could Alabama still get their act together? Maybe.
Could LSU?
Could LSU or A&M go on a run? The losses by LSU and A&M, remember, are non-conference losses. So they're still right there, and A&M's got 3 wins in the league already banked. So, yeah, you've got as many teams with a chance to make the SEC championship game in mid-October as any that it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And of course, you don't have divisional play here, which means that the 2 best teams are going to go. And that wasn't always the case when you had divisional play. There were a lot of years, especially when Spurrier and Fulmer were dominating the East, that they were the 2 best teams, and of course never played in the SEC championship game because they were both in the SEC East. I would say that this is the most teams that I think have a legitimate chance at the SEC championship game in mid-October, at least since A&M and Missouri came in the league.
Yeah,
and if I put a pencil to it, maybe a little bit longer than that. Now I got a project for Monday. Give me homework. 499-9898 is the number to call. Jules is in Abbeville. Jules, welcome into the show.
Big and Rich, Jolly Charlie, how y'all doing?
Oh, everybody's happy.
Better now.
Yeah, that was as exciting as Burt Jones to Brad Davis.
Well, we just got the Kiffin. We heard it. We don't have it to play. I apologize, but Lane Kiffin at his press conference said this one will stay with us forever. Jones to Davis has stayed with him forever. Cannon's run has stayed with him forever. This one is Kiffin's words. This one will stay with us forever, and I believe it. Do we have him? I don't want to hang up on him. I was responding to something that he said. It's all right. I don't know how this one would be very hard to get past if
I'm trying to put myself as a player on Ole Miss's team, and this is one that hurts really bad because for 90% of the game you were the better team. I mean, you outplayed them. You were more physical. You did everything you could to win the game. This is one of those games that could be a season record. It's hard to overcome one of these losses.
Especially because they've already done it.
Yeah.
They came back from the Kentucky loss, and they thumped a decent South Carolina team. South Carolina
Getting knocked down the second time is tough.
Yes. South Carolina went to Kentucky and dominated that team. They gave LSU all they wanted. Took the last play of the game for LSU to beat them. Took the last play of the game for Alabama to beat them today. South Carolina's not bad. They're not perfect, but they're not bad. And Ole Miss went there and dominated that game after essentially leaving themselves with so much regret in that Kentucky game because, like tonight, a lot of it they did to themselves. That Kentucky game, Kiffin said it going off the field at halftime, we extended Kentucky drives with our penalties in the first half. And because of that, Kentucky ended up controlling the ball for 40 minutes of the 60-minute game. And then at the end, they made one play and did it. And I'm sure that when they go back and look at this, they're going to say, 10 penalties for 120 yards worth of penalties. And you got LSU 4th and 5 and an opportunity to put them away. And Nussmeier throws a strike to Anderson. I thought his best pass of the night.
You fail on a 4th and 2 inside the 15. You miss a field goal. I mean, there were so many.
You dropped a touchdown pass right out the chute.
Pass. I mean, it's another one of those games where Ole Miss killed themselves.
LSU's going to take credit for making some plays at the end.
Yeah.
And I would too if I was them. But Ole Miss will sit there, and I can't blame them. When they talk about this game tonight, tomorrow, Monday, they're going to say.
When they watch the film on Monday,
they are going to kick themselves all up and down. 499-9898 is the number to call. We'll take a break. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Eagle 98.1 Game Day continues. Tigers win it 29-26 in overtime. LeBear's hotline 499-9898 is the number. Ashton is in Destrehan. Ashton, welcome into the show.
Hello. I was just wondering what y'all opinion was on Ole Miss and their convenient timing of all their injuries this season.
Excellent
You've been
question.
waiting to talk about
Yeah, I have. All right. This is bull crap of the highest order. This is Bush League. All right, what they're doing. And I actually kind of took up for Kiffin a little bit during the week because teams did this to Ole Miss for a long time. And I thought at one point Kiffin was just trying to make a point about how teams had done this to them for so long, they were going to start doing it. And let me say, I don't think this had anything to do with why LSU was behind or that LSU won the game or anything like that. But you're actually seeing a signal from the sideline out there to go down. So here's my solution to this, because I don't think the officials should be burdened with having to officiate this. These are plays that happen behind the huddle. These are things that happen behind the huddle, behind the play, behind what the officials are supposed to be concentrating on and calling. Furthermore, they can't be expected to look at those players and know if they're hurt or not. So This is not a burden I want on the officials. This is a burden I want on the league office. And the league office, if they're bullish enough on field rushes and finding them with that, and the NFL has got their uniform police and all that stuff, and if a guy's got his socks rolled down the wrong way or his shirt untucked, they fine them $5,000 if they got a towel hanging off their belt the wrong way and all that stuff. Then the Southeastern Conference on Monday can go look at this, and you can tell this is not Sherlock Holmes detective work. They can tell if the signal's coming in, these guys just fall down, and then they go to the sideline and they're laughing it up, and back in the next player 2 plays later. So here's my solution. First time we catch you doing this is $25,000 to the coach and $50,000 to the school. That's no money. I get it. Second one doubles. Okay. Third one doubles again. So now you're up to $100,000 and $200,000 for the coach and the school. After 3, we're going to suspend you. 4th offense is the head coach is a 1-game suspension. And the 5th offense is a 3-game suspension. And SEC games, we're not going to suspend you for when you play Nicholls State. And we're going to put a stop to this crap because this is absolute Bush League. And I would say that if LSU was doing it, when Les Miles would put 38 on every one of his punters and kickers, I thought that was Bush League. And this is Bush League. And the league, this is something that the league has got. There is a sportsmanship policy.
I was about to say.
I didn't even know this until Kelly brought it up the other day. But this has got to stop, okay? This goes against every level of sportsmanship that there is, okay?
You're cheating the system.
You are.
You're allowed 3 timeouts. You can't call a timeout whenever you want by having a guy drop on the field.
That's it. And you know how you the boy that cried wolf, okay? One of these times somebody's really going to be hurt, and they're going to say, you know what? The hell with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a 10-second runoff. He's gone.
Right, and we don't want that. I heard somebody else say today, don't let them back in the game, that series. I like the idea behind that. Here's the problem, though. What if the guy's actually hurt?
Yeah.
Okay? What if he actually gets his bell rung, goes to the sideline?
Just the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, and he's actually hurt. Well, that guy ought to be able to come back in the game.
There was a couple times tonight where I heard the fans just roaring when a guy went down.
Yeah,
and there was a couple times they were hurt.
Yeah, and I don't want the officials burdened with that.
No, because the last thing you want on earth is an official deciding is he really hurt or not. I mean, you can't decide that because
if you make one mistake,
lawsuits, whatever you can get into. But when they're signaling from the sideline, The team is looking over, then they're saying go down, then somebody drops. It's complete BS.
This is a league issue, and it's very easy to police. They've got an eye in the sky everywhere. They can see.
Watch it on Mondays on our YouTube channel.
Watch it on Mondays, and you can levy fines. I'm not a big fine guy.
I will go pick those plays out for Monday, just a couple of them, to show you when they do it on purpose.
Good, do that. We do the podcast. We drop it on Monday nights. We had the week off last week, but Handycast.
If
on
we
YouTube,
can see it
YouTube.
on the film, and y'all can see it on the film, the SEC committee can see it on the film.
I'll bet you it gets sent in.
Yeah.
So start doing something about it. Quit saying we'll handle it behind closed doors. No, we're going to announce the fines. We're going to progressively increase them. And once we get past 3, we're just going to suspend the coach.
Look, and this is what's so crazy about it. That's always been done. People have done it, but they're taking it to a whole freaking another level.
I mean, once every now and then.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
You need a breather. Now they're just doing it. They did that tonight to give the chance to review a play.
Yeah.
That's what throws me.
It's complete Bush League. Chris is on I-10, I believe, on his way back home. Chris,
you're nice.
Welcome to the show.
I love you, baby. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, this is Chris Truax, former LSU Tiger, man. How you doing?
I'm well, man. Listen, I love your show, obviously, and listen to you guys. It's great, but I'm well. But listen, when you guys, I don't care about politics. Here's what I'll talk about is how we're going to run the football in the SEC.
Get you back over here.
You got any eligibility left?
No, it's not about eligibility. You know, it's one back, it's shotgun offense, but guess what? Hey, when we get to the moment and we got to win a game, it's hard for us to win the line of scrimmage.
Well, Chris, you call plays for a while as an offensive coordinator. You tell me how LSU could better run the football, because the personnel you got is what you got. There's not better personnel behind what they're playing right now. So you tell me schematically, what can you do better?
Let me tell you something. When you look to the line of scrimmage and you have the premier left tackle and a premier right tackle, and you have a premier tight end, I'm talking about first-round pick guys, and you look at your quarterback, who's obviously going to be an NFL candidate as well, and number 29, that guy can run the rock. We need to get under center a little bit, and hey, hard count a little bit. We need to make sure that on first down that we have a deep play action look. But right now, I'm not seeing a play action look. All I'm seeing is something out of the gun.
I wouldn't mind seeing them go into center a little bit more too. I'm okay with that. Now,
down, kick out, play action. They need to put it in.
But Rich, what kind of production you think you're getting out of these tackles right now? Because it does not appear that either one of them are having as good a year as they had a year ago.
No, I mean, I think in the past game they're pretty solid, but right now we're getting beat at center. I mean, we're getting so much push up the middle that pullers getting knocked off their blocks. They're getting pressure in the middle of the field. They're not. It's almost like we're limited to outside run only. And you go back, look, South Alabama, our guard play was good. You go Nichols, it was okay. But right now, when we're playing against these better defense lines, when we play against a Walter Nolan, we're getting our butts whipped in the middle, and we're just getting so much push that there's no room for the guards to pull. And so you're not getting the kick out blocks. You're not getting a down block to where you open up a seam. It's just almost like you got to pitch it and get outside because they're getting beat so bad up the middle.
I can deal with the Walter Nolans of the world, knocking you around, okay? Guy's a pro. I can deal with, the kid from Kennard from South Carolina who's a pro. I can deal with those guys. They're just going to make some plays, okay? I remember when Quentin Williams came in here for Alabama a few years ago, and they couldn't block him to save their lives. It was like trying to block a greased bowling ball. They just couldn't. They couldn't lay a pad on him. That guy's still playing in the NFL, and he's playing earlier. It's the other guys. You got to be able to. You got to be able to block the regular guys.
Yeah, I mean,
can't block Nolan and Kennard. Fine, you got to be able to block the regular guys.
Look, I just don't think we're as talented in the middle of the offensive line I mean, they pass block okay. I mean, you saw Nussmeier have to move from the pocket a lot. He's not getting pressure from the outside. He's getting pressure from the inside. And we're struggling to make blocks on the inside.
Stefan is in Crowley, I think is Chris, good to hear from you, man. Stefan is in Crowley, is next.
Yeah, on I-10 heading on the way home. Thank you again for keeping me awake again after this game. The wristbands were awesome. If I was a recruit, I would have been really impressed. They actually had them sitting on the seat when you went in there. Made for a heck of an environment. Look, I've been in a lot of LSU games. I've been a season ticket for over 20 years. I was there when Hester ran the rock on 4th down. I was there when Virginia Tech had the paratroopers come in. I've heard that stadium just rock. You know, recent years, I think maybe the mystique of Tiger Stadium's died a little bit. We just haven't had that effect on other teams that I've seen in the past. But I can tell you tonight, the crowd really affected that other team, man. I could see plays where the crowd really affected Dart in particular. And I'd even go as far as to say that the crowd won overtime for the Tigers tonight.
Well, we knew that all of the factors were in place there, that you had a quality opponent, a lot on the line, great weather, night game. All of the Tiger Stadium boxes were checked, Stefan, so I appreciate the call.
Top 10 matchup.
Yeah, you get everything that you wanted tonight. He brought up Hester. You happen to watch the game on Friday night between Utah and Arizona State?
No, I was watching the Florida game.
I found Hester's clone. I found his doppelganger. This Scatabo kid from Arizona State.
I thought we found his doppelganger against Nichols. The law firm running back.
Guggenheim. Guggenheim. Guggenheim may look like this Scatabo kid runs just like Hester. Like he's mad at the ground, like he keeps, he runs hard.
Yeah, I made some
he
good
runs
blocks on
low.
those 4th downs.
Yeah. If you watch Arizona State,
I'll watch
him. He's number 4, and you watch him and just kind of, put a purple and gold jersey on. He's Hester.
On the big 4th down touchdown, I think I celebrated more than Hester. He had the wind knocked out of him.
He was faking.
Yeah.
I've heard that
he was
story.
tired.
Chuck is in somewhere in Louisiana. Chuck, welcome into the show.
Hey, it's Chuck from the Spillway. We got a little field report. The McDonald's on Hot Island Road's out of hamburgers.
Uh-oh.
We got a victory. We got everything we needed. We took care of business. The McDonald's isn't backing ourselves up with the hamburger.
They got hot and spices?
Usually it's just the ice cream machine that's broken, right?
It's all chicken. They got all chicken. Everything we want. They just Krispies. They were nuggets. Nothing but chicken.
Well,
Chick-fil-A.
It's been a long time. Oh, the line was long this
Tell you
morning.
what, go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Thanks for the call. That's
McDonald's in the Spillway is out of burgers.
They're out of burgers.
At 1:55 in the morning, they might be okay to be out of burgers.
Well, okay, so if you're an Ole Miss fan and you're driving home, you just hate life, right? Or you're driving back to you just hate life.
Well, I'm stopping.
If you're an LSU fan, you're going to relish this when when we get in the middle of next week, it's going to be, we did this wrong, this wrong. But there's a sugar high right now.
That's the only reason I'm here. I was ready to jump off the bridge when I was about to ride over here. I did not want to come. I was in such a bad mood, and then it happened, and I got re-energized, and I'm awake.
Yeah, if you think you were leaving me here by myself if they had lost, you forget
if
that.
I'm driving back to Oxford, you got 6 more minutes. Make sure you stop at a gas station, get a bottle of bourbon before you get to the Mississippi line.
That's right, the Sunday Blue loss.
Yeah, there ain't no buying alcohol this late in Mississippi.
We'll take a break. LSU wins at 29-26 in overtime. It's Eagle 98.1 game day.
Eagle 98.1. Eagle 98.1 game. Eagle 98.1 game day. Stat check. Presented by Luba Workers Comp. Luba Workers Comp. Delivering genuine dependability.
So the score was close. The yardstick is really close. Just didn't feel like that, right?
No.
First downs, 22 each team. They were equal in first downs. Total yards, 464 for Ole Miss, 421 for LSU. Didn't feel like that. Passing yards, 337 for LSU, 284 for Ole Miss. Rushing yards, 180 for Ole Miss. on 42 carries, 4.3 yard average, 84 yards on 24 carries for LSU, 3.5 yard average. They did do a good job, Richard, of the first down runs. They were able to put them in some positions where they got behind the chains a little bit.
It was 22 third down conversions and 3 more fourth downs. I mean, they did really well on first and second down.
They were 11 of 22 on third, 2 of 3 on fourth. LSU was 6 of 16 on third down, 2 of 3 on fourth down, and those were in the last drive where they absolutely had to have it. Ole Miss 24 of 42 through the air, 6.8 yards per attempt. LSU 22 of 51, 6.6 per
51 attempts.
Yeah. Penalties. This is another place where Ole Miss is going to really feel like it got away from them. 12 for 110 yards, 6 for 45 for LSU. Each team turned the ball over twice. LSU threw 2 interceptions. Ole Miss threw an interception and had a fumble. 31-50 time of possession to 28-10 in favor of the Rebels. Here's your individuals. Garrett Nussmeier, 22 of 51, 337, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6.6 yards per attempt. Jackson Dart, 24 of 42, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 6.8 yards per attempt. LSU rushing, Caden Durham, 12 carries, 37 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. Do you think he looked off at all?
It was hard to tell because he had nowhere to run.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting hit in the backfield.
Josh Williams, 9 carries for 34 yards. Garrett Nussmeier, 2 carries for 16 yards. I bring that up because the 14-yard run that he had was on 3rd and 13.
Must have.
It was another must-have at the end of the game. By the way, the 4th down to Caleb Jackson was his only carry of the
minus
night.
3 yards.
Ulysses Bentley with 11 carries for 107 yards and a touchdown for Ole Miss. He had the 50-yard touchdown run on 4th down and a yard. Yep. Henry Parrish, who left this game early, 14 carries for 42 yards, and Jackson Dart with 15 carries for 27 yards.
I didn't realize he had 15 carries in that game.
You know, they started running some quarterback counter in the second half. They did. They have some success with that. But then you got to take the sack yardage out, which was
6 of them?
It was 6 sacks. I don't have the total sack yardage, but I'm going to say it was probably somewhere in the area of about 35 yards or so, 35 to 40 yards worth. Kyron Lacey, 5 catches for 111 yards and the touchdown, which was the game winner. Aaron Anderson, 3 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown, which was the game tire. Josh Williams and Mason Taylor each caught 43 yards worth of passes. Caden Lee ended up leading Ole Miss in receptions. He was kind of the third receiver and not really somebody that we talked a whole lot about in the pregame. And by not a whole lot, I mean not at all. All we talked about was Trey Harris. He had 7 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown.
Didn't play in the fourth quarter.
He was in street clothes in the fourth quarter. Caden Lee had 9 catches for 132 yards. And when I got a minute, I'm going to go look and see how many of those third down conversions were to him because it was a lot.
Seemed like a lot of them.
Jordan Watkins with 3 catches for 25 yards. Defensively, Whit Weeks, 18 total tackles, 10 solos, 18 total tackles, 10 solos, 8 assists, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a pass defense, and a partridge in a pear tree. Greg Penn, 9 tackles tonight, including half a sack. Braden Swinson had 2 sacks among his 8 total tackles tonight. Major Burns, terrific game for the senior. 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for losses total, and the 1 sack he got by himself. He really powered through the back and made a play. Zy Alexander with 5 total tackles to go along with a pass defense and that big interception. Trey Washington with 6 tackles led the way for Ole Miss. He had a tackle and a half for loss. Chris Paul Jr. had 5 tackles, as did Sunshine Perkins for Ole Miss. Punt returns, not much in either direction there. Each of them had 1 punt return. Ole Miss's punter, 3 punts for 46 yards, 2 inside the 20. Peyton Todd, 4 punts for a 42-yard average and 1 inside the 20. LSU's punting game has not been nearly the liability we feared that it might be in August. These guys have done a nice job.
They're covering really well. I mean, we're not getting the deep punts. We're not booming it down the field, but they're not having a lot of room to run.
If you're giving me a 42-yard average and Ole Miss only had 1 return on the 4 punts for 1 yard. So,
I'll take it.
The net punting average is fine. We'll take a break here and come back and give you the full day in college football. It was another humdinger. We'll do that when we come back here. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The Robinson Brothers Ford Lincoln College Football Scoreboard. Robinson Brothers Ford Lincoln on airline under the giant American flag.
All right, everything has gone final. Start up at the top. Number 1, Texas. Slow start against number 18, Oklahoma. But they win it 34-3. Quinn Ewers back from the injury, threw for 199 yards and a touchdown. Texas didn't have a first down in the first quarter, but they warmed up after that. Ewers had thrown a bad interception. They got warm after that and kind of ran away and hid from Oklahoma. Game of the day in Eugene, number 3 Oregon holds on to beat number 2 Ohio State 32-31. Dylan Gabriel threw for 341 yards and a couple of touchdowns for the Ducks. Ohio State trying to get down in field goal range at the end. Ran out of time when Will Howard, they had a timeout left. About 5 seconds to go when they snapped the ball. He tried to slide, give himself up. He was a second too late, and Ohio State goes down for the first time this year. In overtime, number 4 Penn State beat USC 33-30. Drew Allar threw for 391 yards and a couple of touchdowns. USC, I think their biggest lead, they led 20-6 at the half, and I think it was 23-6 at one point, and Penn State came all the way back to win it in OT. Number 5, Georgia kind of Willie walked around a little bit with Mississippi State today. 41-31 was the final. Georgia wins it. Carson Beck threw for 459 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Mississippi State, who is by far the worst team in the SEC, moved the football against Georgia today quite a bit. This was not just a whole bunch of garbage time. They were in this thing. It was 27-10 at the half. They got it within 10 a couple of different times in the second half.
Mississippi State's a team that's going to get better. They got a good coach, a good offensive mind. They're going to start putting some things together.
They just had so many things, so much turnover.
So much change of style of play.
Yes, exactly. When Mike Leach passed suddenly and they changed to something different, now they're kind of going back in the other direction. Number 7, Alabama survived 27-25 over South Carolina. South Carolina recovered the onside kick. First of all, they missed a 2-point conversion, which they had an open receiver. The pressure got to Sellers. He ended up throwing it out the back of the end zone. They get the onside kick, but they throw an interception on the last play of the game.
The one thing I've learned, I went to the tailgate today. LSU fans love when Alabama's struggling. When they made that extra, or when they got the interception right at the end of the game, then they got the onside kick. Every tailgate just exploded.
I want to let you know a little secret. It ain't just LSU fans.
Yeah.
It's, the Alabama fatigue is real.
Yeah.
Okay. I was in LeBear's is one of the sponsors of the show here. We were in the old bar up in the front before they did the sports book on the Kick Six. The entire casino. I mean, it was just like this wave of noise throughout the whole thing. Everybody just takes great delight in Alabama struggling. Number 8, Tennessee needed overtime to beat Florida 23-17. This was the first half. Tennessee was held scoreless in the first half. It was 3-0 at the half. Dylan Sampson, 112 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground for the Vols. Number 10, Clemson cruises. They beat Wake Forest 49-14. Number 11, Notre Dame goes to 5-1. They beat Stanford 49-7. You think LSU's kicking themselves for being 5-1, losing to USC, who's 3-3? How about Notre Dame 5-1, losing to Northern Illinois, who I think is 3-2 or something along those lines. Number 11, Iowa State stays unbeaten. They are now 6-0 and 3-0 in the Big 12. They beat West Virginia 28-16. BYU stayed undefeated. They beat Arizona 41-19. They're also 6-0 and 3-0 in Big 12 play. Number 17, Boise State beat Hawaii 28-7. The Heisman favorite, Ashton Genty, ran for 217 yards and a touchdown. Number 18, Kansas State came from behind in the fourth quarter to beat Colorado 31-28, despite 388 yards and 3 touchdowns from Shedeur Sanders. Kansas State had a 24-14 lead entering the fourth. Colorado scored 2 touchdowns to take the lead, and Kansas State got them at the end. Number 21, Missouri rebounded. They beat UMass 45-3. Number 22, Pitt stayed undefeated. They dipped California 17-15. Pitt 6-0, 2-0 in ACC play. Cal has lost their last 3 ACC games by a total of 8 points. Number 23, Illinois, in overtime, beat Purdue 50-49. This looked like a Big Ten basketball game. Guess Illinois made their free throws. Luke Altmaier threw for 379 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Illini. Iowa beat Washington 40-16. Wisconsin beat Rutgers 42-7. Georgia Tech beat North Carolina 41-34 on a late touchdown by the Ramblin' Wreck. Ball State beat Kent State 37-35. It was Buffalo over Toledo 30-15. Army stayed unbeaten. They beat UAB 44-10. Army now 6-0, 5-0 in the American.
Did you get Trent Dilfer's postgame?
No.
I want to see that one too.
Well, if it's anything like last week's. Miami of Ohio beat Eastern Michigan 38-14. It was Louisville over Virginia 24-20. Cincinnati beat UCF 19-13. Colorado State over San Jose State 31-24. San Diego State beat Wyoming 27-24. It was Old Dominion over Georgia State 21-14. Western Michigan beat Akron 34-24. Northern Illinois, I asked what their record was 3-2. They're 4-2 now. They won today. They beat Bowling Green 17-7. Memphis beat South Florida 21-3. It was Ohio over Central Michigan 27-25. UL Monroe goes to 5-1. They beat Southern Miss 38-21. New Mexico bested Air Force 52-37. Washington State beat Fresno State 25-17. The Cougars are now 5-1 on the season. Texas State beat Arkansas State 41-9. North Texas over Florida Atlantic 41-37. Rice beat UTSA 29-27. Nevada beat Oregon State 42-27. UL Lafayette goes to 5-1, 2-0 in the Sun Belt. They beat App State 34-24. Vandy 4-2 now. 2-1 in Southeastern Conference play. They did not hit the over, did they? Oh, over on their win total. Yeah. They're over now. They beat Kentucky today 20-13. It was Syracuse over NC State 24-17. Syracuse is 5-1. Anybody notice that? I don't think I would have.
The only time I recognize them playing good is when they beat Clemson, and that was rare.
Yeah. Georgia Southern nipped Marshall 24-23, and Minnesota beat UCLA 21-17. In-state scores: Texas A&M Commerce beat Northwestern State 42-21. It was Southeastern over Houston Christian 37-7. Alcorn beat Grambling 17-15, and Southern beat Texas Southern 22-19 in overtime. And if I saw the right highlight, I caught it just as we were about to come on the air.
Kyron Lacey scored for them too,
but it looked like the same play. Okay, if I saw the right highlight, it was a pass to the receiver in the front right corner of the end zone.
Back shoulder pass.
Look, if I saw the right play, and I think I did, it looked like Southern won in overtime, 3-point game. Pass to the front corner of the end zone at the end.
What they just showed, which was interesting, was the first time since the 80s they had 4 overtime games with top 25 matchups. 4 overtime games since when? Since it said like 80 something.
Well, the overtime didn't come into play until like 95. So the amount of teams that could be have overtime in one day.
Broke a record today.
Yeah, they broke whenever it was. They broke a record today. Been a long day. Game balls are next. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Game balls. Presented by WCK Foundation Repair. WCK Foundation Repair. Support your home team. WCK Foundation Repair.
Okay, who you want to give a game ball to besides Whitweeks?
I was going to go with the guy with 18 tackles, 10 solos, a sack, and a force. I'll go with.
I'm going to talk more about Whitweeks.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Braden Swinson, Whitweeks, Greg Penn, they all play great, but nobody's playing better than Whitweeks.
Whitweeks had one of those, I want to call it one of those Al Richardson games. You may not remember Al Richardson, but Al Richardson was a tackling machine in the early 80s for LSU. He's one of those guys that just he's like, you remember Jesse Tuggle played for the Falcons? Yeah. He had always ended up with like 170 tackles every year. Richardson was like that. And he just, every game you looked up and Richardson had 12, 14 tackles. Of course, that was back when they ran the ball a lot more, but still, this was an Al Richardson game.
Ole Miss ran it 42 times tonight.
That's a lot.
What makes me think about it even more is
they also threw it 42 times.
He was almost ejected from the game.
That would have been bad.
The difference in that is huge.
If Whitweeks is ejected from the game, or if Kyron Lacey's knee injury was, more serious than
it's over at halftime,
they're not going to win the game.
No.
They needed every little bit of it.
All 18 tackles.
Yeah. So let me jump on the defense bandwagon and go with Major Burns. 8 tackles, 2.5 for loss, and a sack and a half.
Best game as a Tiger.
Yeah, and Zy Alexander, who had the interception in the end zone to go along with 5 tackles and another pass defense. Thought he was terrific tonight too. And let me give a little credit to Mason Taylor. When they start that last drive, he's got 2 catches for 0 yards. He had been a non-factor in the game. I don't know if it's something that Ole Miss was doing, or maybe Nuss didn't see him on some plays or whatever it was. But all I know is that when they needed him on 4th down and 6, he's open. He gets the first down. When they needed him on 3rd down and 10 later in the drive, he makes 18 yards and he gets into Ole Miss territory. So he may not have had a bunch of catches tonight, but the ones he had were damn important.
In 6 games when we needed him, he's open and he makes a catch. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the guy to go to in a crucial play.
And, of course, Lacey with 5 catches for 111 yards in the game-winning touchdown. That was kind of big, too.
Yeah, but Weeks had 18 tackles.
We're just handing them out like Halloween candy tonight, game balls.
Give him to Aaron Anderson, too, man.
Aaron
he made
Anderson.
some pretty crucial catches.
I thought he should have maybe gotten credit for the one that they waved off. I'm a little – I'm way past weary of the –
If the ruling is it was called on the field, and they're watching the replay, and they're like, well, we can't really see where his hands are, then it should be –
Oh no, you talking about that? That's the one in the end zone. I'm talking about
Thomas,
I'm talking about the one on the last drive that they waved off. All right, so he's got the ball, he hits the ground. Well, to me at that point, play's over.
Yeah, he had control.
It's not,
he hits the ground,
and then it starts moving a little bit. I'm a little bit weary of this Zapruder film. The ball moved 1 inch. You were a receiver. I mean,
if I stood up with the ball, I caught it. Leave me alone.
Okay, run that one by the white hat these days. A little bit tougher. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap things up. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Game and a night that won't be soon forgotten by the winners or the losers, as LSU wins it 29-26 in overtime. Next week, LSU plays Arkansas. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff. Eagle 98.1 Game Day starts at 1 p.m. From Rouse's for the road game. Monday is a part of Live at Lunch. We have the Brian Kelly press conference starting at 11:40, and the Brian Kelly coaches show on Thursday night from TJ Ribs. Final score, once again, LSU 29 and Ole Miss 26 in overtime. From all of us here at the flagship, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good morning. Enjoy your Sunday. This has been Eagle 98.1 Game Day.